it's Natalie from Odd Page Society. I wanted to do a walkthrough with you on an altered book that I did for an altered book project that Odd Page did in the spring of 2025. I took a book that I had received in a Secret Santa swap that I was inspired to use because it has all of this delicious green paint on the edges of the book. At the time, I managed to get my hands on some of the Toddler Time line from Katie Pertiet. It was one of the last lines she did for 49 in Market, and I really wanted to use them, and I thought that this was perfect because the colors just coordinated so well. So I've used some of the leaves that she designed. These are made out of acetate, and then different elements of paint. This is one of the doilies, and then I believe this is from cut out from one of the 12 by 12 paper packs. I used some Tim Holtz stencils for the stenciling, and I also did some subtle number stenciling on the back as well. It just kind of fed into the little primer feel, and I used some washi just to cover up the name of the book, which you can kind of see the title through. This book started out as Before We Forget Kindness, and I liked that because it was just kind of a nod to the author. I had this cord or this ribbon, this cloth ribbon, in my stash. So I used a combination of vintage elements that I had. This is one of the labels being them, and some other things that just happened to be in my stash that coordinated. I like the use of the orange and the green. This is a piece of paper from the collection. What I did in order to create these pockets, with this one in particular, I just put the scrapbook paper on top of the page from the book. But for the most part, I have gone ahead and taken out book pages and then adhered the book pages together to make the pockets. That allows you to take enough of the book out so that you can fit in extra elements. I don't typically like to have an alligator mouth, which is, I feel, what I ended up with. And the other tip that I had heard of after finishing this book was to start on the right-hand side and the left-hand side respectively and work towards the middle. So you'll notice that the bulkier side of the book is definitely the left-hand side of the book, and it gets a little bit thinner on the right-hand side because I noticed that I was getting a little bit larger than what I wanted. That's just all learning curve stuff as you go through your first time doing anything. So I had a children's book that I liked the images from. I believe this was from one of the My Bookhouse books. I used various elements of that. I created some tags with Katie Pertiet's paper, and then I used some different children's book elements and some little tab stickers. I had this featured at a scrapbook store and crafting store that I go to, and so when I had it in the store, I did up a little write-up for anybody who was glancing through so that they had an idea of what I had used and what I had done and what the point of the book was. I thought that if someone hadn't discovered an altered book or come across it, it would be nice for them to have some type of explanation. So I've just collaged various bits of vintage ephemera that I had and stenciled and used washi tape kind of where I saw fit. I used a combination of the flashcards that I had, and I've just incorporated a lot of different elements. These are some of the rub-ons from the pack, and then this is just washi tape that was in my stash. I sometimes like to vary all of the ribbon, but in this one I wanted to keep the coloring fairly consistent. I like the kind of hidden tuck of the tickets under there. This is some Tim Holtz fabric that I just liked the additional texture that it added, and I was able to use some of his yellow. I've gone ahead and done like two different pockets here. One was where I just cut the top of the paper. This is a native page to the book, and then I glued it to the page next to it, and then on top I put a piece of scrapbook paper. So that's where you get the two pockets out of that, and I've mirrored it on this other side of the book. And to keep it interesting, I did a slightly different angled pocket on this side. And then this one, I've done some folded techniques to get multiple pockets on the one page as well. And then that continues on through these other two sides, just to create some different interest. This is part of the book jacket that came with the original book, so I wanted to use that as a bit of a nod to the book. And then this is some Tim Holtz paper that I found just really went quite well with this whole paper line. I was trying to vary it so that it didn't end up just being all one paper collection, and it had more of an eclectic feel to it. And hopefully you would agree with me that I managed to accomplish that. This was a sample book that I brought in for Odd Page Society when we did our altered book, so that people could get a better sense of what it was about. And then we went ahead and altered some books that I was gifted on my Buy Nothing group. So this was my first one. The altered book that I did for the actual altered book challenge that we did, if you're interested in seeing a flip through of that, just put a comment down below. If you are wanting to see more than just my book and some of the books from the other members, let me know as well. I can see if some of them are comfortable with me filming and sharing their creative process and their makes with you. So this is a washi tape that I got from 49 in Market. I really like how wide it is. It's very helpful. This is the part of the book where I had to kind of tone down the bulk. So I've really tried to lean into thinner papers. The washi is a lot thinner and not layering things quite as much, but still trying to get some visual interest. This is a Tim Holtz collage paper that I was able to put down, and I liked how this just feels really like primary school feel to me. This is a table of contents for one of the children's books, and I just put a rub-on on here to kind of match the orange on this side with the orange on the other side. So there are echoes on each side of the page to just give it some more visual cohesiveness. And then this is a stamp that I had in my stash, and I put one of the little cards from the Katie Pertiet line in there, and then more of the book jacket with some of the ephemera pack. And then looks like this is kind of the front cover. So the Book House for Children is the book that I took pieces and elements from to include in this book. And then this is a ledger stamp from a Tim Holtz stamp set. And this is the inside of the original book, and it looks, it's very similar to the book jacket that was around it. And then this is a label for drink bottles that I ended up within my stash. And then I've been trying to sign my work and just write little themes kind of on the back. So people, if you come across this later in life and I'm not around to kind of explain it, or someone doesn't watch the video, then they have a better sense of the purpose of the book and what was going on when I made it. I hope that you found this helpful and that it can assist you in your own creative journey. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. As always, have a wonderful night. Bye.